Okay guys, welcome, week 2. Now I'm really hoping that we can capture some better audio quality this time around. I'm trying a slightly different approach. We'll see how it works. What I'd like to do this time round is think about this concept of the information society. I've suggested that it's really the fundamental concept for the subject. It's a real foundation for your first assignment. It'll carry you through into the second assignment as well. So it's really important that you start to get a handle on how to think about it. Okay, so what we're going to try and do today is move from theory. The information society is a kind of abstract theoretical concept, a theoretical idea, through to the real world, and how an abstract idea like that can find some value in terms of helping us understand what's happening in the world as we experience it. So to do that, I'm going to start by talking a little about two seminal studies that you'll come across in that first section of Module 1. Those are studies of the US economy from the latter half of the 20th century by Matchlup and Porat. And both of these researchers looked at the US economy on a large scale. So they were trying to identify sectors and segments of the economy that were adding to gross domestic product. And what they found, they both found the same thing, and that's that there was a decline in the world's most advanced economy. There was a decline in manufacturing and in agriculture as drivers of gross domestic product. And what was developing, what was beginning to become a serious driver of value in the US economy was the service sector, the sector of the economy and occupations which made intensive use of information and communication to drive economic value. Okay, so those studies were really fundamental in starting to drive a lot of the development of information society theory, because when other researchers started to look at comparative international contexts, other contexts and other advanced economies, they find similar things. And that's where we come to the two readings that I asked you to look at the end of last week. Now, that material, those readings are as current as you can get. They were published on Thursday, so it's really helpful for you in approaching your first assignment to dip into those readings. They're brief, they're really manageable, so no excuses. And what I'd like to do really is hand over to you at this point. Maybe this is something that we could have a bit of forum discussion around. What do those two readings suggest is happening in the Australian economy, and what are they projecting over the next couple of decades, the medium to long term? What's going to be the driver of economic value in the Australian economy? Okay, and if you can respond to that question, if you can join up the dots here, then you're really halfway along the path towards formulating a response to the question for your essay in assignment 1. Okay, so what are they saying about manufacturing in Australia? What are they saying about the segment of the economy that uses information that's derived from more creative, abstract processes and knowledge generation? What do those readings say about the place of that segment of the economy in terms of driving the Australian economy over the longer term? And if you want to even take it to a more personal level and think about it anecdotally, What about the clothes that you're wearing right now? And I'm wearing, yes, yet again, another white shirt. So next week, I promise I'll be wearing an unexpectedly coloured shirt, maybe even an Hawaiian shirt. But what about the clothes that you're wearing, or the cars that you drive? Where are they manufactured? Are they manufactured in Australia? Perhaps you drive a Holden. You've always driven a Holden, but perhaps you drive a Toyota. How's manufacturing of Toyota cars doing down in Melbourne at the minute? And that's a fairly topical example, because there's been a fair bit of activity around the car manufacturing industry in Australia. But it's the more general point of where is manufacturing happening, and if you can start thinking about that again, I think that helps join up some of the dots. And another way that we can do that is to look at the language of government policy in Australia. Okay, so what kind of policy language is the government using? Again, we look at that in Module 1, and there's some more on that in the assignment resource pack that I provided. Okay, so there's scope for you to develop these ideas. But if we think about recent developments, well, the Rudd government introduced a whole new department, the Department for Broadband Communications and the Digital Economy. Now, what does that tell us about how they view those aspects of the Australian economy? Is their thinking influenced by this information society theory? What does the development of a whole new department specifically for broadband, for communications, for the digital economy in Australia, what does that suggest? Again, we've got significant investment here. We've got $43 billion of public money going into the development of the national broadband network. And that issue was a real turning point in terms of the election, the last federal election, and the formation of the coalition Labour government. So again, what does that suggest about how they see the Australian economy, the global economy, and the drivers of development in our societies and in our economies? Again, here there's scope for you guys to follow up on that on the forum. So maybe we could have a few posts around that. What does that suggest they see as driving the Australian economy into the longer term? Okay, so look, I think that's enough to carry us over the next week. You've got some points of discussion there. You've got some readings that will help focus your thinking. Module 1 specifically, from the assignment resource pack. Start off with the Bawden reading. It's really great at helping structure how you think about this idea of the information society. So I can't recommend it enough. I think that'll if you drive forward with that reading, we'll be in a position to start thinking about a few of the related ideas that you might bring into play in your essays. But get your head around that initial construct. That's really important. Okay, so some points to follow up on the forum, and I'll see you next week.